Hello, welcome back to the TTRPG I am your host, the orator. I am here to help you today, and today's topic that we are going to talk about is, well, making maps and how to do it on the cheap. Before we get to that, if you like the work that we're doing here and you want to support us, quick plug, come on over to the website, TheTtrpgProject.com. Pick up a copy of Taran D100 System. We currently have our beta released. The PDF is $3, or you can order a paperback for $9.99. We'd really appreciate it. It's what's going to help us grow this content and eventually expand on the content. But most importantly, it's going to help make sure that we can continue to keep the hobby of tabletop gaming cheap and affordable for as many people as possible, because that's our goal, giving you tools to run your sandbox for as little as we possibly can. Anyhow, that being said, enough shameless plugging. Let's talk about building maps. Now, it doesn't matter if you are an experienced game runner who's been doing this for 20 plus years, or if you're the newbie who's just starting off. It doesn't really matter. It's the same no matter what. You pull out your paper, you pull out a pencil, you start drawing, you start storyboarding, you start doing all of that. Or at least that's how it used to be. Nowadays, we have all of these cool digital tools. Don't get me wrong, I still pull out the pen and pencil all the time to work up rough concepts. But having the tools that are available online, in particular the tools that are free, really we got to take advantage of it. Because that's how you're able to take your game to a next step. Especially with so much nowadays with things going on. We never know when the world's going to flip upside down again. So we a lot of times have to play from home, and a lot of times we're not playing in the same home. So if you're like me and a lot of your players you're playing via Discord or using third-party services, you're going to probably want to use a map maker with a tile system that'll let you move things around. And if it's cheap, or better yet free, all the better. Today I'm actually using Roll20 to show what we're going to be doing. And this is a general way that I go about map creation. Today we're going to be doing just sort of a town area, nothing too big. A lot of times if you're new to running a game, I recommend you start with a neighborhood in a city or a small town that's out in the countryside. It's a lot easier, it's way more manageable, and it gives you less to worry about when you're getting started. Everyone always wants to jump into the big Lord of the Rings going across the world campaign, and hey, that's great, but you know what your players are going to need? They're going to need to stop in towns and neighborhoods along the way. So learning how to build small and then go big is never a bad trait to have. That being said, let's get started with Roll20. Hold on as I grab the wrong thing. There we go. All right. Yeah, there we go. All right, so we have the Roll20 up. Now, I've already loaded up some of the tokens that I plan on using for this map. Let me zoom in here. I'll show you what we're working with. We have a stagecoach because currently my party is traveling by coach. So I want to make sure that, they know where their wagon is at all times. I grabbed a couple of random little NPC tiles. They're not really meant to be too significant. We have a barbarian here because that's very common where my travelers are going. We have a little peasant woman. We have a little peasant dude. We're going to go ahead and use those sporadically. But first, before we start dropping in NPCs and figuring out their functions, we got to think about the structure. By structure, I mean our foundation, literally the place we stand. Now, I like to work with a black background using white outlines for the cells. It's just easier for me to see. But we have a couple different things. I have a little tile here that I plan on using as a representation for walking paths. We have some stone walls to help represent the walls of buildings. We have a little bit of gravel in case we want to add some texture in some places. We have some gray tiles to represent stone floors, because stone floors would be common for where they're going. We also have a couple of tiles to help represent wood. We can do a lot of things with those. We can make them into floor tiles, or we can maybe use them as makeshift little placers to represent furniture like tables or bar counters, things like that. We also have a tree because, it's always good to have trees. Plant a tree, okay? No, seriously, plant a tree. It's a great thing to have. And then we have a little tile here, which I like to mark any tile that is going to represent things like water, I like to mark that just as is because it's a good reminder. And also that way your players never get confused about, what do you mean I'm walking through difficult terrain? Yes, you're walking through 3 feet of water. It said water. It's always good to have. And every building's going to need doors, so I grabbed the generic door tile. Also, fire, everything needs light, campfires, cook fires, braziers. I have a general burning token here that of just some fire that helps indicate to them that, hey, there's fire there. Well, and this is it. We have our tokens, and then we get started. How big is the town? How many places is it going to be? This is actually going to be a fairly small little town because this is just a stop for my players along the road. So we start. I like to start with the road. I go ahead and grab my road tile, make a copy of it. First go into layer and move it into the map section. Come over here, indicate that we only want to work with the map. And I'll just start right here at the top of the screen, and I'll place my one tile down, Control C to copy, and you can make the next tile. And boom, boom, just like that, you have all of these tiles that can rapidly be made and come together. How big do you want the road and things? These are all questions you have to ask yourself. How much space, how big the town is going to be. Now, I imagine that the town that my players are stopping through is going to be a fairly big town, at least in terms of the road size. Buildings, not so much. This is more of a, I like to, if you were like watching a Western, this would be the little town on the prairie that waits for the stagecoach, the Wells Fargo stagecoach to come through a couple times a year. That's what this basically is. So I just kind of build the general quick little road, boom, boom, boom. And immediately off the road, let's go ahead and grab our wall tile and move that to our map section. You might not always want to treat them in map. You might want to leave them as object tokens, especially if you have players that are have a tendency to break things. I have one of those, but I think I'm going to risk it because I don't think he's going to be battering down any walls. And then you just kind of, you can choose other layouts. You could do a square layout if you want. I particularly like working in H hexes. And boom, 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 we have it going in. Throw it down like that. Come back over. Grab our floor tiles. And again, all of this can be done relatively easily. We're not really wasting any time. Just, you have it, once you have an idea in your head, just go with it. You can copy and do whatever you need. Throw that extra tile over there. Let's grab that floor tile. Again, Control copy, boom. And the best part about working digitally, I find, versus working with pen and paper, is the fact that if I make a mistake, if there's something I need to fix, it's much easier for me to go back and fix. Now, I always leave my door tokens. I like to leave them as is in terms of making them a token because those need to move. Sometimes they need to disappear, things of that nature. But boom, 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 there we go. Let's grab our barbarian. We're going to have to say that there's a barbarian that lives in here. Go ahead and make a copy of that. We have a barbarian that lives in there. He's got a little fire going inside. Matter of fact, let's give him a little table right there by the door. And then that looks good. Let's go ahead and grab our stagecoach because I know my party, when they arrive, they'll be coming to right here. And I like the fact that the road, the paved road, is just big enough for the stagecoach to look like it's just going through clearly one lane. If there's two coaches going opposite directions, it's a big holdup here. Somebody's going to have to go off the road. And then if you feel so I like to just kind of grab trees and kind of put a little bit of stuff as I'm going. You don't have to finish all of one thing. Work little bits, pieces at a time. To steal the quotes from the famous Bob Ross, there are no mistakes, only happy little accidents. Because you can always go back and redo anything that you need to redo. Let's go ahead and start that there. Let's grab ourselves, and we need some more road. And boom. It's quick, it's easy. To make tiles, something we'll go over in another video, but making tiles itself is incredibly easy. You can do it using Roll20. You can do it using other sites. I use Roll Advantage a lot of times to make tokens. And remember, you're playing at home, so don't feel bad about getting art from offline. If people put it out there for free, and as long as you're not trying to monetize it, there's nothing wrong with you taking advantage of art that's available for you and your friends and family to play a game with. All right, especially once you convert it into a token or make some other annotations to it, technically you're falling under fair use. I'm not a lawyer, that's just how it was explained to me. So you can see we could easily just take our road. Let's make another building over here. And then you can just decide how big does each building need to be. I imagine this first building that we did with the barbarians, sort of a little bit of just a general building. Some guy that lives there, maybe he sells some wares. Maybe I'll turn him into a merchant. I don't honestly know, but they're there. We can just sit there and boom, boom, boom. Let's make this building come down like so, because every medieval town needs a little tavern, even if it's just a podunk tavern. And we can just boom, just like that, grab our doorway over here, make a copy, and boom, boom, just like that. Now here we are, we have our little town slowly coming together. We have this guy here, we have the stagecoach there. Come back over here, we gotta click, grab, and put a little pathway leading down to the tavern. And don't feel like you have to use the entire map. Not every map is going to be that detailed. This is actually, like I said, this is intended to just be a little roadside for my players. So it's actually going to have just kind of be a big U-turn. I originally from a small little town where we had at one point in my life, I lived in a town that was so small that when we got our second stoplight, it was a big event. So you can just do a little thing like this. Just boop, boop, and let me get this out of the way. That's the one thing I don't like about Roll20 is I can't get the indicator boxes to go away for that. Maybe if I paid for the premium, maybe I could, but times be tough. Plus, this is a channel that's about how to keep this hobby cheap and affordable. That being said, Roll20 does have some pretty cool features. I'm not sponsored by them. I just happen to like using their product. But you can just sit there, and now some people will say, well, you could grab, a bigger picture. You could do it. You could even upload your something that you drew freehand. That's great. I just happen to really enjoy this task of going around and doing all the clicking. To me, it's like playing with Legos. Something I never grew out of. I happen to enjoy it. So this is how I like to put it together. One tile at a time, like a big puzzle. I used to freehand a lot of my maps, and freehanding is definitely faster, but if you are going to use your maps for any kind of combat, I strongly encourage you to use a grid to make it easier for your players, especially if you're going to be a stickler about distances or anything like that. You want to make sure that you have given your players everything they need to be successful. So now you see we have our little go around. Let's make the pathway a little bit thicker here. Matter of fact, we're going to say that they have to make the pathway thicker because what we were talking about earlier, what if two coaches come through at the same time? So we'll go ahead and make our path a little bit bigger. Boom, right there. And now you could cheat technically if you wanted. You could take one of these and expand it and do like that. But personally, I don't know. Like I said, I think it looks better when you do it piece by piece. And it's real easy to reset the dimensions on your tiles. You just quickly can throw them together. If you're somebody who likes to jump from thing to thing, that's okay. It's not a problem. Once you work out the outline of something, you can just move on to the next thing if you want. You have to go back and finish it at some point. Like, for example, that tavern building that we were talking about. I haven't done the floors yet. I haven't put in any tables. I haven't put in any NPCs. But that's okay because I got the general outline of where I want it. So here we go. Boom, boom, and boom. Oh, that tile got shrunk. Let's replace it. There we go. All right, so now we have our little go around. There, our players will arrive with their wagon. Da da da. Maybe they'll stop here. Da da da. Come down here. Maybe there'll be a wagon they have to get around. Maybe that could be a whole thing. Oh no, who's gonna move aside? Maybe my players will move aside. Maybe my players will be like, no, we're not moving. You know, it could be a whole interaction. But go down. That gives enough room for another wagon to come by. And boop 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 boop. Matter of fact. One thing we can do is I can say that the whole reason my party even stops here and ends up in the tavern or interacts with the NPCs is because when they arrive here, there is a broken down wagon blocking the exit, and the caravan is making them stuck. Anything can happen. Who knows? Just in case my players watch this before we get to this part of the game, I don't want to give out too much of what is going to happen here, but there's a whole lot that can happen here. And boom, boom, boom. Here we are. We've only been at this for a few minutes. I actually probably would be done if I wasn't making a video. And we can just, boom, throw these in. Throw in your floor tiles. And it's just easy. Don't worry about making mistakes. Like I said, well, like Bob Ross used to say, there are no real mistakes, only happy accidents. Go ahead and grab that tile. There we are. And you know what? I think this tavern, I don't think the whole floor is going to be nice. I think a good portion of the floor is going to be nice. Just like this. Yeah. Just like this. Now, I know some people get really finicky and they want to include chairs and everything else, but most of that stuff your players are not going to interact with, at least in my experience. So I really don't bother with it that much. We're going to take this NPC and we're going to make them the barkeep. We're going to put them right here. Later on, maybe I'll get some barrels and things to add as a back wall. But for now, we're just going to give him a little bar counter. Boom. Control copy. And there we go. We'll give them a little bar counter like this that they can work along. We want to make sure they have a pathway out. And we're going to say that there are some tables that match the bar, just sort of sporadically put about. It's a small place. It's not very big. Spot right there. And then that other spot we left open, we're going to use that gravel that we grabbed for texture. And we're going to put it here. We're going to say that this is a gravel pit inside the tavern because maybe they hold some blood sport events. You know, something to pass the time with the travelers when they come through. So there we go. Boom, boom. Those tiles done. I like to add water sources. So we're going to say that there's a nice... Copy. We're going to say there's a nice big water source over here. And this is where people can come and get their water that they need. Just like that. Right off the side of the road, there's a nice big water source. That's where all the people get their water, all that jazz. Grab a few more trees. And just sort of give the trees a little bit of framing. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to cover the whole map in forestry. Your players will understand that you're only working in a certain, ranged field area. Maybe we put in maybe there's a really big tree because of the water source. Yeah, let's have a really big tree next to the water. We can just grab the tree, just grab a corner there, and grab a corner, and let's just make it a little bit bigger. There's a really big tree right there because of the water. Grab that tree, move it over a little. There we go. All right, and then we need some people. So here's we'll say that here's somebody who maybe works at the tavern. Maybe they're a customer, maybe they're not. Let's put somebody over here. So just, again, they don't need to all be different. They don't all need to be unique. If you want to take the time to do so, that's always appreciated by players, but it's not necessary. And we can always, after we do things, we can move stuff back. So I'm going to grab that section there. Let's move that to the map layer. And then we could put a barbarian here and say he's standing in the gravel pit waiting for a challenger or his next sucker as he sees it. And boom, get rid of our excess. Now, the cool part about using Roll20 is that we can go up, we can go into our setting and we can change the entire background now that we're done building. And let's say that we wanted to make it, let's say this color first. So there we go. So there we are. Close that, and there you have it. Now you have a completed map all ready to go. Players can arrive. They arrive on their wagon. There's places for them to park the wagon, a reason for them to stop, a little tavern with some NPCs for them to interact with. There you are. That's how easy it is to use Roll20. And if you want, actually, with a little bit of time and as you get comfortable with the tools, you're not limited to something this size. You can go bigger. You can do something along. Here we go. Zoom out. You can make something this big. This was actually an old battle map that we used. It no longer has all the icons on it anymore, but this is where they had to fight a bunch of drakes and a wyvern that had taken over a military installation. We can come down. Let's go to another map. Here you are. This is another example of a much bigger town and a keep. This was once all fields, but my party of murder hobos decided to light the place on fire and destroy most of the keep. But again, Roll20, this just goes to show you how easy it is to use. You don't always have to make a huge map. Some maps are like this, very, very small, interactive maps. And you don't always need a map. This map, again, going along the road, perfect for creating a little ambush. They have other pre-done maps that you can use. There's things out there you can get. Honestly, Roll20 is my favorite one that I've used recently. Like I said, not sponsored, just a fan of the fact that I can use their product and it works well. It does what it is, and it's free. I can't remember how much space you're allowed, but I run 3 games using it currently, and I haven't run out of the free space that they allow me to use yet. Thank you, Roll20, for that. Really awesome. But there you go. There's your 20-minute explanation of a quick, cheap way on how to make maps. So until next time, may the math rocks roll in your favor. Hope to see you again. Remember, if you like what we're doing here, you want to see more content, you want to see us expand, you can help us out by as simply as hitting that like button down below, maybe hitting subscribe, turn on that bell icon. If you decide you don't like it later on, you can always unsubscribe with one click. And if you really want to help support us, you can go on over to TheTtrpgProject.com, become a member. It's $1 a month. Every month, once we have, we haven't quite worked out the details yet, but we plan on releasing early content for people who become members so that they'll have access to it before it goes behind the paywall of actually having to be bought. And if you want, you could even buy the PDF. It's only $3 if you for our game, the Taran D100 system. It is a game that gives you some loose lore that's completely changeable if you want to, because that's the whole point of a sandbox. It's just there to give you some structure, some classes, and most importantly, a bunch of mechanics to help you run your sandbox game using a D100. All right? Because remember, a D20 is great, but a D100 is 5 times more versatile. Until next time, may the math rocks roll in your favor.